Bitcoin is back above $90,000 and showing huge strength, while the rest of the traditional stock market has really been in shambles, has been crashing. Bitcoin showing really, really strong strength and could potentially be falling gold. Before we get started, welcome back to the channel. My name's Doc. Throughout the day, I'm a resident physician, and at night and on my lunch break, I take you guys on my crypto and investing journey. Don't mind, I got the Tesla full self-driving going on here in the background. I am monitoring it, but a lot of crazy and exciting things are happening in crypto. Kind of feels like we did in December. You can feel this hype, this excitement coming back into the market as Bitcoin is making a really, really big move up. Stay towards the end of the video because I'm going to tell you guys how I'm navigating this, because yes, these are exciting times, but I don't think we're ready to go full-blown risk on yet. So MicroStrategy is made a huge purchase on Monday, committing themselves to being one of the largest Bitcoin holders. And right now they hold over 500,000 Bitcoin, and it looks like they have no plans on slowing down how much Bitcoin they're buying. They've shown approximately a 12% yield on the Bitcoin that they've held, and Michael Saylor just continues to be ultra bullish. Now, MicroStrategy continues to buy, and the Bitcoin ETF inflows were huge on Monday, which was yesterday. There was over $350 million that flowed back into Bitcoin, which again is really, really important. We know retail hasn't gone anywhere, right? Retail investors like you and me, right? If you're watching Bitcoin videos or crypto videos on YouTube, you're probably considered a retail investor. We've been here the whole time, right? We haven't gone anywhere, but institutions are really starting to pile back on. And yesterday's ETF inflows show just that. So that's really, really exciting. Okay, so why has Bitcoin made this big jump up? Because literally just a week ago, we were in the high 70s. And if you guys were in my Discord, link down below, we have nothing to sell you. It's a completely free Discord. We're really just trying to build an awesome, strong community. So if that's something that you're looking for, link is going to be down below in our Discord. We were talking about in this Discord, like, it was really tough. We were very much in this wait and watch to see what was happening. And we drew a trend line. Again, that trend line is going to be in my previous videos and in the Discord. And we said, hey, Bitcoin needs to durably get above $86,000 for us to see a real sentiment change. And we've got that, right? We've actually had a couple daily closes above that now. We're at 90-ish thousand. I think at one point we got really close to 91,000. So this is a clear sentiment change. Well, what could be driving this, right? What could be the reason while Bitcoin is increasing? Well, my thesis, or kind of my working thesis rather, is that Bitcoin is finally following gold. We all know that gold has been having a great year, up 40% on the year, and is now trading above $3,500 an ounce. Gold has very much outperformed all of the traditional stock market, right? Because stocks are falling right now, like in a pretty significant way, right? The S&P went down to, I think, 4,900. The QQQ fell down pretty significantly. Stocks have very much retraced since tariffs went into effect, but gold hasn't. Gold has been an outlier and is actually performing really well, putting in new all-time highs while the stock market's been crashing, and until as of late, until Bitcoin was kind of showing some weakness too. So I suspect that gold is very much, or excuse me, that Bitcoin is very much following gold's path. It is starting to show strength in an otherwise shaky market, okay? That's kind of my leading thought process as to why Bitcoin is finally starting to break out. Now, I have other thoughts on why Bitcoin could be breaking out, but I just talked about kind of this shaky environment that we're in. I think we should talk about that for a second. So there's no surprise, right? Liberation Day, or the day that the U.S. put on a ton of tariffs to try to even out this trade deficit that we have, has really caused a lot of uncertainty, right? If you watch CNBC, Fox News, or the Fox Financial Channel, not Fox News, all of these financial analysts, and even on Twitter, right, they're really talking about this uncertainty. They don't know what Q2 is going to look like with tariffs that seem to turn on and turn off kind of at the drop of a hat, right? They very much have gone on and off much quicker and unpredictable in a lot of ways. So this creates this uncertainty environment. Because of that, 10-year bond yields, which is the same thing as the 10-year treasury yields, they're one and the same thing, that name is used interchangeably. The 10-year yield has fallen, and that's really good. We needed the 10-year treasury to fall because house mortgages, home mortgages, auto loans, and credit card APYs are all determined off this 10-year treasury rate. It was too high, it was too expensive. That's why we were seeing home mortgages in the 7%. And what this does is it really squeezes the consumer, right? So folks who are, doing relatively well, this doesn't hurt them as much, but it really squeezes the lower income individual. And that's tough, right? It's tough to have a booming economy if a decent chunk of consumers are really being squeezed by increased rates, okay? So that 10-year treasury yield is coming down, and that's way more important than you think, because you might think, hey Doc, I don't care about the 10-year yield. Well, you do, because it helps. As the 10-year yield comes down, it helps risk on assets like Bitcoin, like the S&P 500, like the Russell 2000. So that's the first thing that's happened kind of because of this uncertainty. The other thing is that the dollar, the Dixie, the US dollar, the DXY, is crashing, right? Not long ago, this thing peaked at a rough approximately 110. It's come down to 98.99. So that's good, because we need a weaker dollar for risk on assets like Bitcoin to go up. So we all think of like the 2021 bull cycle where Bitcoin and alts just absolutely flew. Well, that was in an environment with a weak dollar, similar to where we are now. So that's really good. Could Bitcoin finally be popping up because the dollar's weak? I think a weak dollar is contributing to Bitcoin really doing well. I really do think, though, that Bitcoin is increasing because global liquidity is increasing, right? The global M2 money supply is really starting to spike up, right? So it's actually hit new all-time highs, and that's good. You can think of global liquidity increasing as the system being flushed with cash, right? And this influx of liquidity and cash can then go to invest in more risk on assets, right? Now, why is global money liquidity increasing? Well, it's happening for a couple of reasons. First of all, Japan and China are flooding the market with cash because they need to, right? China in particular, their debt to GDP ratio is over 250%. The only way that China is getting out of this debt crisis that they're in is they got to print their way out of it, i.e. turn on the money printer. And that's why we're seeing this global liquidity spike and increase in a meaningful way, okay, right? In a meaningful way. So I think that is also contributing to this huge Bitcoin price improvement. Like, I genuinely do believe that. So I think all of these things together is a reason that we are really, really seeing Bitcoin price increase. Now, here is what I want you guys to keep your eye on, and this is how I'm playing this. And also, if you're getting any value out of this, hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below where you think Bitcoin's going. It's totally free, and it helps me out quite a bit. So I think Bitcoin could continue to increase and get to the high 90s. Why do I think that? Well, we're seeing that India is getting close to inking a deal with the US to negotiate some of these tariffs. There's also rumblings and rumors that the Ukraine and Russia war is getting closer to a ceasefire and kind of like a termination in some ways. Marco Rubio, he's been negotiating this peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, and he says they're getting close to an agreement. And if they don't get close to an agreement, the US is just gonna kind of stop dealing with it. I think they use the words like it's not our war to fight. Again, I'm not trying to get political. I'm trying to stay apolitical and unbiased. But that could be another reason why Bitcoin gets close to the high 90s. Now, the reason that I keep saying high 90s is because $100,000 is a psychological number, right? It's a tough barrier to get over. I do think Bitcoin will set new all-time highs this year. I genuinely believe that because for all the reasons we just talked about, specifically global liquidity is spiking, right? It's at new all-time highs. I think we're going to have to tap the glass at $100,000, right? We might get up to 98, 99 and then fall back down a couple $1,000s. Then we might go back up, test it again. I think there'll be a couple tests before we break through $100,000. So how can you prepare to navigate this and extract as much value out of the crypto market? Well, Bitcoin dominance, it's still above 64%. I think the highest that I saw it hit was 64.6%. And I suspect this could go as high as 67, 68%, right? So what that means for you is money is flocking to Bitcoin and not so much alts. Yes, there are some alts that are doing really well, Caspa being one of them. I'm going to make a video on Caspa a little bit later today or tomorrow. But ultimately, the majority of the money is staying towards Bitcoin. So I would suggest, let's see where Bitcoin goes. Can it durably stay in the $90,000? We really want to see a weekly close on that. And that's when we're really going to shift to go full-blown alt season, right? Because we're all holding alts, right? There's no doubt we are all holding alts. All of us want alts to do really well. We're getting close. We're not there yet. I'm continuing my DCA strategy, right? I've been buying micro buys. I had a ton of cash that I had set aside because I sold some of my crypto assets about 2 months ago because I just had this inkling that the market was going to fall. Really, really happy that I did that and I've had cash on the sidelines. So I'm going to continue my DCA strategy until we see a big sentiment change, right? QT ending, rate cuts coming, which, by the way, there is a 10% chance that we get a rate cut in May. So what that really means is rate cuts likely aren't happening until June, right? So the Fed Watch tool, I think it's 11 or 12%. The number changes every day on the probability that we get a rate cut in May, right? Because that next FOMC meeting is May 7th. There's roughly a 10% chance that we get a rate cut in May. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't say, hey, we're ending QT in May. I think that's what we'd all like. There's really no inkling is if they're going to end QT yet, but likely, high probability, no rate cuts in May, despite all of the pressure that Trump is putting on Fed Chair Powell. So we kind of just got to wait and see what's going to happen on there. I would say continue to DCA into alts that you have high conviction in, but don't go all in yet, right? Gosh, I'm rambling. I feel like I've kept saying like, whoa, this is the last thing we'll end on this, but here's why that's important. Look at the Bitcoin chart. Go back to May 24th, May 25th. We were at this same range, 89,000, 90,000, and then we fell back down. I'm not suggesting that's necessarily going to happen again, but we literally saw this exact same story play out 1 month ago, literally almost to the day. So we just got to what we really have to do is be prepared for all scenarios, right? I can't give you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm DCAing small DCAs into alts that I really like. And then once we see a big sentiment shift, QT stopping, rate cuts, Trump tweets something crazy, then I'll really switch over. It is good to have some exposure now, though, because Trump could literally end all of this with a tweet. He could literally be like, hey, we're reducing tariffs. We're going to negotiate a trade deal with China. And like markets would fly. Bitcoin and the stock markets would absolutely rip. So that's why I still want to have some exposure, right? I'm not completely out. So gosh, this video is going on almost 15 minutes now. If you got any value out of this, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. It really helps me out more than you know. Comment down below, where do you think Bitcoin's going next? And I'll see you guys on my next video.